What we find in corporate life is that only very few people bear the burden. It's everywhere. It's not just here. Only very few people bear the burden of life. So those are the people that understand body life, that death needs to walk in a vessel before life can be made available. That's why self is the sin of corporate life. Because you are receiving life, but you are not willing to die so that others can contact life from your vessel. That is cancer. And most of the trouble in corporate life will come from individuals that are not willing to participate in the process that produces life. Anytime you find that there is disunity among a people, there's disunity among a people. The reason for disunity is that there is somewhere in the mix that the oil is leaking, so there's friction. So if the oil is leaking, it means that you begin to see evidences of clashes, evidences of commotion, evidences of trouble, evidences of... And when you see those evidences, it's no longer good. If you are a wise man, you will need to investigate where the oil is leaking from. Because he says it is like what? The oil. Since I came to America, even before I came to America, there are a few guys I've been relating with closely. And even more so while I'm here. And it has been good. You begin to wonder, how will life be if this person were not here? If there are people in your life that you can make such comments about, it means you are beginning to see the pleasant dimensions of fellowship. You are beginning to derive a kind of strength from the person that is sitting by your side. And it's a wonderful thing. That's how God ordained that we'll fulfill destiny corporately. But Satan is going to fight that. And one of the ways he fights it is to create a leakage for the oil. And if you are troubleshooting to find out where the leakage is coming from, there are only three places you can troubleshoot: head, beard. There are some things that we can achieve if we are united. So the true apostolic church will fight against anything that will confront the unity of the house. Anything. And one of the things, as you come to find out, corporately, are you there? What you call sin as an individual, when you come into corporate life, the sin that exists in corporate life is self. I'll explain. I guess the medical people here can explain to us that cancer really is not sickness. Because in cancer, what happened, a certain cell is receiving nutrient and then refusing to distribute the nutrient. So the cell now becomes so big. And all the other cells that are supposed to receive nutrients from this cell, they begin to shrink and die. But this guy is just... That's what cancer is. And I hope you know how cancer is treated. They operate it and cut it out. So that's what happens when we are in corporate life. Oh, you're not here. Are you here? Now, I'll take my time and teach this matter very well. Because I'm a little bit experienced in ministry. A little bit. Not too much, but just. The problems will come from that person that is huge in self. Because the moment we come into corporate life, there's no allowance for self. The moment you exercise self, you're going to get in the way of the other sister. It will, and she would, and then, oh my, strange things happen. Now, this is the counsel that Apostle Paul gave. This is what he said in the book of Philippians chapter 2, verse 3.
Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory.
Now, vainglory is that self. It's in corporate life. Let nothing be motivated by strife. He said, I'm going to show you why. Let nothing be motivated by vainglory, self. If you see, when you notice, even in the husband and wife relationship, all right? If the husband at any point in time needs to make this statement, do you realize I am your head? If you need to take advantage of that clause to make a point, you are already too big. The woman knows you are the head. You don't even need to tell her. Right? You don't need to emphasize it. But anytime there's that emphasis, check yourself very well. Because you might be attempting some form of manipulation. The moment you allow vainglory, you allow self, there is some form of life that we lose and something dies. In the corporate life, something dies. Something dies. And that's the reason why we don't promote a man into ministry that has not served. If the man has not served, it means that the man does not understand the danger of self in the corporate life. He will kill the corporate life. He doesn't know that in the corporate life, self is equal to sin in an individual person. So the sin against the corporate life is a commitment to self. What we do in the corporate life, God will demand that you sacrifice so that the corporate life be blessed. See, Paul says, death worketh in us so that life can walk in you. Are you there? So we put ourselves under strict spiritual regiments so that we can access virtue from heaven for life to be distributed in the midst of our company. The more useful you begin to become in the corporate body, the more the Lord will put the burden of sacrifices upon you for the body. So you might find someone doing dry fast for 7 days. And the reason why he's doing the dry fasting is not because of himself. It's so that some people that have been facing some challenges will break free. When you begin to think like that, then you are beginning to mature in the revelation of the corporate life. And through you, life will be released. The thing about life is that you don't need to be on the pulpit for you to release life. As long as you are willing to pay a price that would deny you some comfort, deny you some pleasure, and you are doing it because of the people, as long as death works in you, life will reign among the people. So an intercessor can be in the corner. You don't know about it, but she's been there for 5 days. And the reason why she's there is on Sunday morning. Can you break out? Can you do your will? So she's dying, she's suffering, she's sacrificing. And on the basis of her sacrifice, that Sunday morning when you come, the pastor will think it's because he's a good preacher. The life that came out of her sacrifice is what began to power the pastor. The life that came out of her prayers is the reason for which someone got healed. The economy of the grace of God was available because someone was willing to walk in sacrifice so that that sacrifice can be the reason for which life is released. When we are in the corporate body like this, the true blessing of the corporate body is the release of life. And anytime you see life released, some people embrace death for that life to come. What we find in corporate life is that only very few people bear the burden. It's everywhere, it's not just here. Only very few people bear the burden of life. So those are the people that understand body life, that death needs to walk in a vessel before life can be made available. That's why self is the sin of corporate life. Because you are receiving life, but you are not willing to die so that others can contact life from your vessel. That is cancer. And most of the trouble in corporate life will come from individuals that are not willing to participate in the process that produces life. How did we become born again? It was the virtue of the death of Jesus. Just like an orange that you buy, and then you cut it open, and then you squeeze it out, and all the juice comes out. That's what happened to Jesus. Everything he was full of grace and truth, and all of that grace. He became poor of grace, empty of grace, so that we can have grace. So when death walked in him, life walked in us. That's the law of sacrifice. And that's the law of the body. So we say, bear one another's burden and so fulfill that law of Christ. So the body life requires that you go beyond yourself to meet someone else's need. And if you have that orientation, and each and every one of us has that orientation, you are willing to pay a price. You are willing to go on 3 days fasting, not because of your son or your daughter, because of someone else, so that life can be released. If every one of us sustain that culture, things will begin to happen and will not even know who paid for it. I hope you are aware that no man becomes like I am, like our pastors are, without someone at the background that traveled for you to get here. I hope you know that. So when you see a strong man, there is a stronger one that traveled, that made the person to be able to come to where he is. That's the law of the body. I hope you know when you gave your life to Christ newly, you still like the things of the world. That winning process had not yet taken place. It took travail for you to be weaned from the world completely. And the people that are responsible for this travail, in most cases, we don't know them. Sometimes we do. For some of you, you already know it was your mom. Death walketh in us, and life where? You want life to flow in your meeting? Embrace death.